guys, it's Katie and I'm here today to do the Pride Flag book tag. The tag was created by Spencer at Common Spence and it's a phenomenal tag. If you guys haven't been keeping up with them, I definitely think you should go check other people's out because there have been some really great recommendations. And I was tagged by Kara at Wild Book Garden. And I just thought I'd let you know a little bit beforehand that I read a lot of different kinds of books, so I'll probably have a mix of YA and new adult and adult in here. I hope I do this tag justice because it's, as I said, it's a really great tag and I'm really excited about it. Also, in case you didn't notice, I'm wearing my Hephaestion and Alexander the Great shirt. You can't tell, they are riding on a unicorn because they were lovers. It has a quote on the back. I can't really show it to you, so I'll just take a picture of it and I'll put it up in the corner here. But it's a great shirt and I am so glad I have it. Anyway, basically what this tag is about is it's taking the pride flag, you know, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple, and there are meanings attached to each color. And so what Spencer did, which is really awesome, is he is taking each color and each meaning and he assigned a question to each color. And it's a really cool tag and it's really clever and I never would have thought about it, but I'm glad that it's here now. Get into the questions. Number 1, red, which symbolizes life. A book with a spirited protagonist who's totally proud of who they are. Someone who gives you life. This was a tricky one for me because a lot of the books I read are either like ancient times, LGBT things, a few YA things where there's a lot of coming out, or fantasy that has LGBT characters and queer characters and stuff. So this is a bit difficult, and so I'm not completely satisfied with my answer, but it's the best one that I've got, so we're gonna go with it. And that is The Bones of You by Laura Stone. This is a new age book, and you've probably heard me talk a little bit about it on my channel before, but it follows 2 young boys, Oliver and Seth, who were high school sweethearts and then broke up because they both wanted different things. Oliver goes to England to study psychology, I believe, and Seth goes to New York to pursue theater. And several years later, after they've broken up, one of Oliver's friends who knew them back when they were together sends him a video of Seth on, I think like some talk show, and he's performing, and it brings up all of these feelings and it ultimately brings them kind of back together in an unexpected way. But both of them are out and very proud of who they are. They're just going through a bit of a struggle time with figuring out what they want and reconnecting with each other, and just, it's a story about second chances at both life and love, and it's got just a great cast of side characters. It's so much fun, and said both of them are out and proud of who they are, even though they're in a bit of a gloomy place at the moment. Number 2, Orange, which represents healing. A book that made you, as the reader, find a deeper meaning or catharsis in your own life. And for that, I'm picking The Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb. Primarily the Fitz books. Not that the other books aren't bad. I might talk a little bit about them later, but I'm particularly focusing on the Farseer trilogy, the Tawny Man trilogy, and the Fitz and the Fold trilogy. There will be no spoilers here. I'm just going to briefly tell you what it's about and why I'm picking this book for this question. So what these books really focus on is our main protagonist's life. His name is Fitz, and he is a royal bastard. His father was a prince. He ended up getting murdered. Fitz ended up getting brought to the castle, and he gets trained in many different facets of courtly life, but he is primarily trained as a courtly assassin. And his life is just one tragedy after another, but he does have a few shining beams of light in his life. He's very loyal to those that have been good to him or nice to him, and just everybody. He's just so good. But the main character that I am going to talk to you a little bit about is called the Fool. Now, the Fool is a very complex and fun and phenomenal character. He also falls into LGBT category in terms of both the gender identity as well as sexuality. He is just a genderqueer gay prophet. I just love everything about the Fool, and Robin Hobb does a really great job at making her books incredibly diverse. Almost all the characters are POCs. There is a really feminist trilogy within it, and gender identity, sexuality, etc. is very much a center of the books in a way, with the way that some people view certain characters. And it's just, that series has changed my life in many, many ways. It's so phenomenal, and I can't recommend it enough. I mean, it's very difficult to get through at times because of the things that happen to the characters and the things that are in them, so they're very emotional reads, but it's really helped me solidify not only my identity, but also just it's changed my life, and they're just phenomenal books, and I love them. And yeah, it's kind of given me both a deeper meaning and a catharsis, just because of the content and just how I have experienced things, not only in this book but in life. It's very complicated, but these books are so important to me. Number 3, Yellow, which represents sunshine. A book that fills you with so much joy it can brighten even your darkest day. And I struggled with this at first, and then it just hit me like a bolt of lightning, and I'm 100% going to recommend OMG Check Please, written by Ngozi. I'm probably butchering that name, I'm sorry. But for those of you who aren't familiar with OMG Check Please, this is a webcomic following a young boy named Eric Biddle. Everyone calls him Bits. And his transition from our main character of the comic. And he is originally from Georgia. And he is, in the first comic, he's working on coming out to everybody. But the comic is very centered on hockey and baking. Yes, those things happen at the same time. It's so happy and fun because Bits he starts out the comic starting out a baking vlog because he's originally from Georgia, and he's just a lovable character. You can't help but fall in love with him like the immediate moment he walks on the page. And he bakes, and that's kind of how he forms a lot of his friendships and relationships with people, because his pies are literally to die for. But he joins the hockey team because he wants to keep up skating. He was a figure skater before he came to college. They didn't have a figure skating program, so he had to join the hockey team. And it was a struggle because he was just absolutely 100% terrified. And he has a bit of a rough time with their captain at first, Zimmerman, and he has to fulfill some really large shoes because his father is a very well-known hockey player, and he just feels a lot of pressure. And just ultimately they form a friendship, and it's just the happiest thing I've ever read. It's the happiest LGBT story I've read to date that is not a fanfic, and it just warms my heart. It's so good. You can find it online, but I know that it's going to be published in book form in the coming months, I believe. It's just really, really exciting. But if you don't want to wait and you want to read really, really happy things, go check out OMG Chuck, please. I guess I can put the link down below in the description box just so you guys can find it pretty quickly. Number 4, Green, which represents nature. A book that is set out of this world, a reality different to our own. Now for this, I am picking The Rainwild Chronicles by Robin Hobb. You heard me talk a little bit about Robin Hobb before, and this is part of the Realm of the Elderling series, but I figured it's also kind of separate, not only in how the story is told, but it still ties in to the overall world. But I'm focusing on 2 characters because they are LGBT characters. They are like out, well, it's a medieval society-esque thing, so I mean they're out. But they're one of the main characters we focus in that quartet is, his name is Cedric, and this is set in a fantasy world. I mean, it's similar to our own world, but there are dragons and all kinds of crazy magical things. But Cedric, my small son. A lot of people don't like Cedric at the beginning. I really liked him. He was kind of one of the linchpins of the entire quartet for me. I mean, granted, he is one of the characters we follow. He starts out, I'm not going to tell you too much about it because they're possibly spoilers, but ultimately what you need to know is he starts out in a very toxic relationship before he goes on his adventures, and kind of by the end he finds a very, very healthy one. And he goes through the struggles of like coming out to his best friend who potentially might hate him because of other reasons, and it's actually quite complex, but it's very, very good. And as I said, this series is incredibly diverse, and this sub-series within the bigger series is no different. But yeah, it's definitely, that whole series is definitely fantasy. 5, Blue, which represents peace. A book where one of the characters finds peace with a difficult truth. I had a really, really tough time with this question because I don't read a lot of contemporary. And so I had to sit back and think, and the book I picked, I'm pretty sure is a bit of a stretch, but I'm going to try and make it work, and I'm going to try and make it count, and I'm sorry if you don't agree. I picked The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. For those of you who don't know what this is about, it follows Patroclus and Achilles, who are characters from Homer's Iliad, which if you haven't read, go do that, preferably before you read The Song of Achilles, because it'll give you a richer understanding. Anyway, Patroclus and Achilles are interesting and complex characters, but it was heavily implied in the Iliad and several other works from that time period that Patroclus and Achilles were both in a romantic and a sexual relationship. And it's full of prophecies and things, and it refers to so many different people. But fate plays a very big role. But the reason I picked the difficult truth kind of thing is because if you haven't read the Iliad, let's just say they both die. But one dies before the other, and it is a very difficult thing for the character who is still alive to grasp and understand and kind of let go. And ultimately, he does come to terms with it, but in a very kind of unhealthy way. It ultimately ends up being his demise. But I mean, he had to come to grips with this other person's death in order to do what he needed to do, or what he was destined to do from the beginning. But yeah, I'm picking that because of the hardships that they both had to go through, and just the difficult truth that basically the love of your life died, and you still had a job, and you still needed to go on living, and you still needed to be what you were destined to be. And so he just had a really big struggle. And finally, number 6, Purple, which represents spirit. A book that deals with LGBT plus themes and religion. So as I said, I don't read a lot of contemporary, so I couldn't pick books with that. But there's another fantasy series trilogy thing that I have read that basically deals with sexuality, gender, LGBT themes, and religion kind of hand in hand. They're so ridiculously intertwined in this world that it is insane. And that is The She by Charlotte Ashe, which her trilogy / series is called the Heart of All Worlds series. But basically, first and foremost, you need to know that this is an adult series. It's very, very explicitly adult. However, if you can get by that and see all of the other phenomenal themes that are dealt with in the book, and all of the other plot things that especially happen in the second book, I think you might potentially enjoy them. Now, what The She is about, just to give a brief overview, is it follows a human named Breeden and a she, which is an elf creature from Celtic mythology, Cerys. And the way that the world works is, at least the human side, because it's split into human side and then Laezi, which is the fairylands, and it's separated by a magical border. And you'll find out kind of more about that as the books go on. So I'm not going to go too much into the political things. But anyway, Breeden saves Cerys from slavery. But Breeden, being the good-hearted human that he is, saves Cerys, takes him back to the fairylands. Now, when it comes to the religious aspect that is just seen throughout the entire series, there's kind of a major discord between the two main religions. There are the old gods, who are the gods that the She worship, and certain people in Vilalu, which is the human world, worship. But then there's this other religion, I think it's the Taiuki scrolls, but basically it's just like this super evil being, kind of new god, monotheism versus polytheism kind of a situation. But the way that sexuality comes into play, especially in the fairylands, is when it comes to how they choose their religions and the things that they want to be associated with. So there are bracelets, there are pendants, there are tattoos, and all of those, your relationships, what you choose to identify as, it's treated in such a reverent way, and it's kind of just very much tied into tradition and religion. When they go on what is called soul walks, or they visit certain gods, they have to give certain types of offerings. Sometimes it's related to sex and sexuality. Other times it's related to just very reverent religious and traditional practices and things like that. But this world is just so steeped in both religion and sexuality that I thought it fit the best out of all of the things. Yeah, those are all of the questions. I had a ton of fun doing this tag, and I am probably going to tag a few people. I can't think of people off the top of my head right now that have been tagged, so I'm just going to go through my subscriptions in a little while and pick a couple of people and tag you both in the description box and on Twitter. But yeah, that's about all I've got for you today. So as always, feel free to like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media. I have a Twitter and a Goodreads, which are both linked below. And I have other social media, such as a Tumblr, a second Twitter, and an Instagram upon request. And I will come back with another video for you guys again soon. Okay, bye!